The world of AI right now, it's a total gold rush. High speed, high stakes. Every single week, it feels like there's a new model, a new benchmark, and a new company claiming they're the king of the hill. The competition is just absolutely fierce. And you know the big names, right? OpenAI, the guys who basically kicked this whole thing into overdrive. Google with their massive Gemini models. And of course, Anthropic, whose Claude family is quickly becoming this huge contender. I mean, these are the giants, and they're all battling for the future. So that brings us to the big question. In a race this complicated, who is actually winning? It sounds simple, doesn't it? But trust me, the answer is anything but. To really figure this out, we've got to look past the flashy headlines and dig into the nitty-gritty, the dollars, the data, and what it's actually like for developers to use these things. All right, so let's start with the one thing that fuels this entire race: cold, hard cash. Building these models is, well, unbelievably expensive. So, who's got the financial firepower to actually go the distance?
And when you look at the money, the picture is kind of stunning. According to reports, OpenAI, for all its fame, is just hemorrhaging money. We're talking spending $1.69 for every single dollar it brings in. Now, on the other hand, you've got Alphabet, Google's parent company, which is basically a profit-printing machine. They pulled in over $100 billion in just one quarter. This isn't just a difference in scale, you guys. It's a completely different reality when it comes to sustainability. And get this. Alphabet is sitting on a war chest of almost $100 billion in cash reserves. That is enough to pay off all their debt twice. So while OpenAI is out there looking for cash, Alphabet has the kind of resources to just burn on data centers, on top talent, and on the insane energy costs it takes to train these models. Okay, so you'd think all that cash would mean total domination in the market, right? Well, this is where things get really interesting. See, OpenAI used to have a lock on the enterprise market, but new data from Menlo Ventures shows they've actually been overtaken. Anthropic is now in the lead, with Google's Gemini right on their heels. That early lead, it's gone. But, deep pockets aren't the whole story. What happens when we look at just raw performance? When you put these models head-to-head on really tough technical tasks, the race gets surprisingly tight. Okay, check this out. This is SWE-bench. It's this brutal test that measures how well an AI can solve real-world software engineering problems, like issues pulled straight from GitHub. And the results? They are ridiculously close. We are literally talking about fractions of a percentage point separating the top dogs. So when it comes to pure problem-solving power, there is no runaway winner here, not even close. And let's be real, benchmarks don't always tell you what it's like to actually use the thing. This quote from a hands-on test in the dev community really hits on a crucial point: reliability. In the real world, a model that consistently gives you good results might be way more valuable than one that has a slightly higher score but is kind of unpredictable. Yeah, and this brings us to an even deeper question for all the developers out there. It's not just about which model is smarter, right? It's about which one is the right tool for the specific job you're trying to do right now. So a really great review from Spartner actually breaks this down into two different coding styles. First, you've got the surgical fix. That's when you need a small, super precise change. Then there's the guided refactor, which is the big stuff, a much larger architectural change. And it turns out different models are way better at one or the other. So a real-world coding test put these models through their paces, having them build actual features, and the results were just fascinating. Claude, it turned out to be the most consistent, and the UI was super polished. GPT was a bit slower, but the architectural quality of its code was just incredible. And Gemini? It was the speed demon. It delivered a functional but pretty bare-bones solution in record time. And this is the key takeaway, right? The best choice depends entirely on what you need. Is it polish? Is it architecture? Or is it just pure speed? And that right there, that brings us to the core idea of this entire explainer. We've all been asking the wrong question. This whole search for a single best AI model, it might just be a myth. There's this recent psychometric research paper from Archive that introduces this brilliant concept called spiky profiles. Now, instead of thinking about a model's intelligence as just one flat number, I want you to imagine it's more like a unique fingerprint, a profile of different strengths and weaknesses across a whole bunch of different skills. And this is what that actually looks like.
Each one of these axes represents a different medical topic. You can see clear as day how a model can be a world-class expert in one area, like cardiology, but then be totally average in another, like human development. That's the spikiness, this unique pattern of peaks and valleys in what it can do. And this is the most mind-blowing takeaway from that research. A model that ranks 23rd overall can still be the absolute number one, the best in the world for one specific task. Just let that sink in for a second. This completely shatters the way we should be looking at leaderboards and simple rankings. Okay, so let's bring it all home. We've looked at the money, we've looked at the benchmarks, the different coding styles, and now this wild new idea of spiky profiles. So, what's the final verdict? Well, it turns out the winner depends entirely on who's asking the question. If you're an investor, man, Alphabet's deep pockets and financial stability look pretty darn good. If you're a developer on a tight deadline, Gemini's speed is your champion. Building some complex, beautiful architecture, GPT's reasoning power is probably what you want. And if you're a scientist needing a specialist, the true number one model might be one you've barely even heard of. So maybe we need to completely reframe the conversation. This AI gold rush isn't about finding one single winner to rule them all. It's about finding the right tool for the right job at the right time. The real challenge, and honestly the real opportunity, is learning how to ask the right question in the first place. Which AI is best for me?